My name's Thomas Hare. I'm the Chief Content Officer of the PDMI. We're happy to have you here for our 2:30 session, which is created by our Brand Response Council. Brand Response Council Chair is, of course, Chris Foster, who's the host of our very popular Take 20 webinar series. Thank you for being here, Chris. Thanks for putting this together. We have to also say thank you to Blue Water, our educational sponsor this year. Blue Water has put together a couple of videos, promo videos, and we're sharing with them, one with you at each session. So here we go.
At Tommy John, a lot goes into our underwear before you do.
But now I've found my bubbly side with SodaStream.
Philips Air Fryer is the original and the very best.
So thank you again to Blue Water. Solving your CTA puzzle is the topic today. I'll leave it to Chris to introduce the rest of the group. Take it away, Chris.
Much, everybody. My mic is on. Fantastic. Welcome in afternoon session, right? Right before the mixers. There we go. Everyone's feeling it, right? We're doing it. So the reason this topic came up is months and months ago, we had the idea for one of the Take 20s. It's a bi-weekly webcast, talk about a lot of things in the industry, and this one came up about CTAs and calls to action. And as we started to think about, there were so many players in the call to action universe and so many business solutions that actually take that customer to the actual point of purchase, right? And so right now, with the number of channels available for consumers to receive marketing and the variety of ways to respond, the options of calls to action and the challenge of attribution has probably never been more complicated, right? The last panel was fantastic, where they talked about the challenges of e-commerce and quote-unquote retail is dead. Well, it's not dead, it's changing, and everything is changing, including customer behavior, including how they actually interact with any kind of media. So from website visits to form fills, Vanity 800 numbers, QR codes, storefront foot traffic, email clicks, etc., are always consumers can engage with marketing, but it's not just the question of what do they choose, it's how they choose it, the patterns that they choose it, which channels actually connect with right calls to action, which ones are tested, which ones are found to be more effective, right? So the question of timing and life cycle and device habits is kind of a jigsaw puzzle. So that's what we wanted to talk about, the CTA puzzle, and kind of figuring out how you form this coherent picture of the business. And I've got some absolute masters of their craft today to talk about what they do in their various business service components. With this, it's kind of filling out the entire picture. So we're glad you're here. I'm so glad you guys are here. And why don't you introduce yourself? Chris, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so I'm Chris Kasdorf. I'm the sales manager at 800.
And what does Dial 800 do?
Yeah, so we are an 800 platform that does call routing, IVRs. We do the data and analytics on everything. So just a complete platform end-to-end for inbound calls.
Fantastic.
Greg Silvano, I'm the CEO and founder of Buyist. We're an e-commerce platform in the direct response space. We are used by 43, I'm going to brag, 43 of the top 50 direct response advertising campaigns.
Come on, give it up. That's impressive.
Of 2023, so we do web.
Hey everyone, nice to meet you all. My name is Mike Tang. I lead the media and agency business at Flowcode. If you haven't heard of us or seen us, we're essentially an offline conversion and ID company working with over 70% of the Fortune 500. Come on. If you kind of walk around this hotel, you'll see Flowcodes on all the different signage.
Really?
I don't know. Funny how we ended up here, but also working with the likes of NBCU, ESPN. I'm sure you all tuned in to March Madness last night. Let's go UConn. My Huskies brought it home, but right after they won the game, you saw Flowcodes on TV, direct shoppable commerce. So very excited to share a lot of the learnings, and you'll see some more information on Flowcode later today. But thank you all for joining.
Also, too, as you'll know, I don't know if you know this, they did a 70-foot high Flowcode in the NBA,
That's
promoting
right, yeah.
the NBA. 70 feet high digital is astonishing. So really glad you're here. Ken, master of your craft.
Yeah, my name is Ken Kerry. I'm co-founder of an agency. We're a direct-to-consumer agency script to screen. We're probably the dinosaurs out here. We've been in this business for 35 years. And although our business is 180 degrees different than it was when we started, so we do all direct-to-consumer strategy, production, content marketing, owned media, digital, linear, non-linear, CTV, everything for our clients.
In the Wayback Machine, did you guys do Beachbody?
Wayback Machine, yeah.
Was it Beachbody?
We've done
it all.
We've stuck our toes somewhere.
But what I love about Ken, though, is the veteran experience from infomercials to now is relevant and in the new media and in the new technologies. It shows how we all have to adjust within the space. So we're going to talk about what's new, what's happening now, what has worked in the past. And Chris, I'm going to start with you. Look, traditional CTA's phone number, right? The 800 number. So the question is, with all this other technology and all these other channels, how has the general level of phone activity and behavior changed over the last several years?
Yeah, so it's changed a lot, obviously. Everything is very mobile first, which is very obvious. But what I just recent stat that I saw is 23% of households have a landline, which means 77% don't. So obviously you need to have everything to be mobile first. So it's really important. And what that also means is we're seeing a lot more drag on calls on campaigns. So we have a customer who is an agency. They work with a lot of automotive companies. And 2, 3, 4 months after that campaign, they're seeing drag. They're seeing 30, 40 calls after that campaign runs. Why is that happening? It's because people are actually putting that number in their phone. They're saving it. They're forgetting about it. Then they realize, hey, we need to do it. This was in the automotive industry, so it's a big purchase. They call that number. So that's a really big change that we've seen. The second example that I'll talk about is another company that we work with. It's a hotel. We're seeing drag from that customer 3-4 years later. Repeat customer, they're putting their number in their phone. It's really important. So that's the first big change that we've seen over the last few years. Second biggest change that we've seen is, again, obviously, things are going digital. So what does that mean for the phone call? That means you want to have numbers on each website, each landing page. You want to give meet the customer where they want to be met. So if they want to fill out a form or if they want to make a phone call, you want to give that opportunity for them to make the phone call. With dynamic number insertion, you're able to do that really easy, and more importantly, you're able to get the attribution to the digital campaign that it's associated with. So that's a really big change that we've seen. We're seeing a lot more companies doing that. And the last big thing that we're seeing is work from home and how that's impacting everything. So work from home, a lot less people are going into the office, which means when you have downtime, consumers, whether their employers like it or not, they're picking up the phone, they're making the calls that they need to make. We're seeing a lot of that too. I do that. It's funny when I'm talking to people here, I've seen them do that too. We were talking about it, how they'll get things done. So that call to action for a phone call is still really important. Those are the big key takeaways that we've seen in the evolution in the last few years.
That's wonderful. I love that. And some of the things that I want to kind of reiterate, that 77% having no landline, it actually touches base with the idea that the phone is so personal, right? It's actually in my pocket now. It shouldn't be, but the phone is personal, right? So instead of like a landline,
right,
which is a household call, which is a household device, it's a personal device. The other thing that I thought was so interesting is you talked about drag, and I'm glad you explained what that meant in terms of, seeing numbers and analysis months or even years after a program. It's almost like in the Wayback Machine, they would see a phone number and they had to act right now because otherwise the phone number's gone. It's off the screen and I don't know it and I can't write it down. I couldn't do anything. But now that it's the consumer's choice when they want to buy, it's kind of like, learn now and do it on my time.
Right.
right? And it really puts that emphasis of the buying action back into the consumer, which is what we all want, right? It's what we want, and now you're making that possible and showing through the data. Those are great changes.
I have a question. Are there trends on that? Like, are landlines leveling out, do you think? I mean, are they?
So, yes. The main reason why you're seeing that is there's still a lot of areas of the country where you don't have good service.
So I was going to ask, like, yes, exactly. So, and is it geographic?
Yes.
You know, are there?
So from what we're seeing, yes, is
Yeah.
the short answer. You might see it go down a little bit more, but you know.
Is it a boomer thing too? Right? I mean, are there?
There's definitely a boomer thing
could be,
into
right?
it. Yeah.
I would think, right?
Yeah.
And it
Are
could
there
be
demographics
generational.
involved? So not just geography, but is there a demographic that that maybe the landlines will die out?
Disappear
Yeah.
because, well, we know that Gen Z is the largest consumer group, and Gen Alpha, which is underneath Gen Z, is not only having phones in their mid-childhood, they're growing up with phones, right?
Yeah,
They don't
yeah.
know a world without phones.
Right.
So I think you're right, Greg, that eventually, over time, there's only cell phone data. There's mobile phone data.
The one argument I would make is if you're in, which I visit, the Adirondacks, there are no cell phone towers. And there's government regulations that don't allow that to happen. So there's still going to be areas in the country where there will be a landline because
I've always thought, there's pendulum swings, right? There's, everything's mobile and not mobile. It's like, pendulums, right? What was old comes back.
Yeah.
And the phone thing has always been a really interesting one because it's, it's like, will web put print out of business, but all of a sudden book sales are bigger than ever, bigger than e-readers, right? So there's that pendulum swing. And landlines are better in a lot of cases, right? But cell phones are more handy. So I don't know. It's one that doesn't quite fit the mold.
Right.
Well, I think if teenagers have anything to do with it, there won't be the landline with the long extension cord so you can go to your room and close the door.
Yeah.
Bueller, anyone remember? Yeah. So talking about not only landing pages and websites, Chris, you had mentioned mobile first. Greg, designing for mobile first, not just keeper brands, preeminent for direct response?
Yeah, so in direct response, mobile's always been a big deal. Actually, so Buyist used to be known as Mojo, and Mojo's created the problem we were solving when I first was introduced into this industry was that they said their websites weren't working on mobile devices. So it was back in 2011. It was a big thing back then that they couldn't get it working on mobile devices. And it's always been big in direct response because if you're watching TV, it was very TV driven back then, obviously. And if you're watching on TV, you're not going to get up and go to your laptop. You're not going to get up and go to your desktop. You're going to pick up your phone or you pick up your tablet, your iPad back in the day. So we were very unique as an e-commerce platform, or anybody in this industry as an e-commerce platform back then because it was 80% of the traffic coming to the website was mobile. But if you were just a regular e-commerce platform, regular brand, you were maybe looking at 50% of your traffic back then was mobile. So direct response has always been very, very mobile heavy. And then all of a sudden, social media comes along, and I mean, all social media is on a mobile device. Right. So now the rest of the e-commerce brands out there, even if they're not direct response, is kind of caught up to that level where it's usually about 80%. If we have a campaign that's driven by a influencer or a celebrity, it's genuinely 100% mobile traffic. There's nobody on desktop, not one.
So I have a question for you. Out of my ignorance, I'll ask. It's not just mobile first. Is it possible that it's mobile only?
Yeah. So it's the evolution has been there was mobile friendly, which means it just worked. There was mobile optimized, which means we actually looked at it on a mobile device and moved things around. Then there was mobile first, right? Mobile first means, well, we looked at this design and we created this design on a mobile device layout and looked at and laid out the story on a mobile device. And it will probably get to mobile only at some point. And even now, we'll work on a design and we'll say to a client, the only people that are going to look at this on a desktop are you and me and the rest of the people in your office. None of your customers are ever going to see this.
Right.
And how this affects a call to action is actually pretty important because on a mobile device, you got to get to the point. Right, you have infinite scroll and all that stuff, but the difference with a mobile device, you've probably heard of the limited attention span of people, that they get easily distracted and things like that. I'm going to go on record. I don't think anybody else has said this, but I think that's a lie. I don't think we have short attention spans, right? I think the problem is that we're using our devices in moments of opportunity that are easily interruptible, right? So you're using it waiting for the bus. You're using it waiting for a doctor's appointment. You're using it because you have a couple minutes, so you look at your phone, so you flip through Instagram, and you not only could be interrupted very soon, you're probably going to be interrupted very soon, much quicker than you would be interrupted if you were sitting at your desktop, right? People don't come in as much and try to interrupt you, and desktop is kind of like this more holy space as opposed to a mobile phone where you would interrupt anybody who's just on their phone. They're wasting time, quote unquote. So if you have a website and you have a call to action, you want to get to the point. What's the point of that website? You tell them right then, order now, right? You have to get to it quicker.
And it's interesting you said that about being distracted, because I would say folks are distracted if it's bad content. If it's a good story that they want to read, that they're interested in, they're going to be like, no, I want to kind of finish looking into this. And when you start talking about the those calls to action, and you just mentioned it now, right, the device or the home experience of sitting in your chair, looking at March Madness, seeing the Yukon merch pop right up, I can take that shot. So Mike, the vehicle to get to those landing pages of those purchase moments, often a QR code. So Chris was talking about the phone. I'm sure there was a phone on that ad too, along with the QR code. So when a phone and a QR code share the space, what have you seen customer behavior respond to that dual moment?
So we've ran a handful of campaigns. I'll use one example with a law firm, and they essentially had Flowcode on screen for the entire duration of the ad versus the number to call. And after looking at the data, what we saw was that consumers are 3x more likely to scan a code to call than actually dial in all the digits off of their mobile device, number one. And I think what's really interesting, and you mentioned grabbing someone's attention, typically what we find is due to the high intent of actually you're lounging on the couch, you take out your phone to actually point and scan. Those are your highest intent consumers and actually your most valuable leads, right? So I think like sometimes we're in market and sometimes we'll get pushback. We're like, hey, we have this beautiful TV asset. Why would we want to put a code on it? And I think like the analogy
Make my logo bigger.
Right.
To afford the commercial.
And I think the analogy we like to put in market a lot is essentially like, hey, that TV ad, however much you spent on it, $1 million, that's a $1 million website that you don't have an add to cart button or you don't have a submit a lead button, right? And I think if you think of your phone as almost a mouse and you think of the code as clicking the physical checkout button or submit a lead button, once you shift it to that narrative, I think people start to understand. But we see really, really great results with code specifically on media. And I think just some insight from the market. So a couple weeks ago, just got back from meeting with a few of the CEOs at the major holding companies like the Publicis and the Omnicoms. And a trend in market that we're hearing a ton is brands are coming to agencies and essentially they're asking for all their media. They need a direct response mechanism to either make all ads shoppable or to build their first party database.
Sure.
Right, and I think everyone's really searching for that option. And I read something, I think Ad Age posted it a couple weeks ago, just around Gen Z, right? And Gen Z has broken the marketing funnel, right? The expectation for this younger demographic, they're very impatient. They're engaging with you at a bus stop, right? 30 seconds while they're at a checkout line. Like, you need to get their attention now. So I think it's very important for every brand and every partner to make all ads shoppable, one click, instantaneous. Otherwise, you're going to miss some of your most high valued consumers.
Well, I love that analogy of saying that it's like a website, because on a website, your logo's not big, right? On a website, it's in the upper left-hand corner, inky-dink, and you've got the calls to action in the story. So if brands are moving more towards direct response, clearly they should call Ken. It's on the screen to talk with them. So as an agency that queues up all these CTAs, Ken, you're advising clients on the sequence and your recommendation based on analytics of phone and landing pages and QR codes and the like. When a client talks to you and you have to lay out a journey, how do you go about that? What is that conversation like?
Well, first of all, our business is to get people's attention. And then these experts help us along the way. If you don't get their attention, it doesn't matter.
Right.
Period. End of story, whether it's 15 seconds, whether it's a story, whatever. So that's really the core of our business. But we look at it differently. And so a client, to answer your question specifically, is, so we'd like to do an ad. We'd like to do some digital. We'd like to do long form, mid form, short form, whatever. But we need to figure out what's the right thing for that client first. So they say, we know you guys know how to put together the right message and all that kind of stuff. And back in the day, we'd say, great, we'll hire us to do that, and we'll be glad to do that. We'll put together whatever it is the campaign is going to be. So it's really flipped on its head today, because it's all about, we talked about call to action, and today it's really about the call to length of action. How long does it take somebody to get to make your purchasing decision? And if you don't have your infrastructure built your marketing infrastructure built to handle that, whatever you do at the front end is for naught. And that's all based on consumer behavior. So our business is all flipped around towards consumer behavior, and then what content we create has to be contextual to whatever the platform it's going to be on, right? An ad we're going to do on YouTube is going to be totally different from Instagram. It's going to be totally different from X or LinkedIn or television or even CTV.
Right.
So it could be all the same product and service, but you got to speak to your customer in a specific way. So my point to call to length of action is, our consumer behavior now is, you see something gets your attention, you're going to research. You're going to go on Google, you're going to go on YouTube, you're going to go on Amazon, you're going to do all this stuff before you even get to the website. Because if you get to the website, 98% of the people aren't going to do anything.
Right.
Now, what are you doing to capture that person who went there? You can have a pop-up and a PDF, or what. You got to create some value to get that person to give you their email, because that is the holy grail, right? So that's all wonderful, but when somebody's doing their research, where are you going to appear? And that comes down to your owned media, your content marketing, your email marketing, strategy, your influencer strategy. All that stuff has to be built out before you even do a campaign. And that's really when I call it the length of action, is once I get there, and let's say I see a product come up I happen to catch it on Instagram, but I don't click to buy. I don't go to the description. I don't click, but I'm going to go research it on Google. So I'm going to research, best athletic wear. Well, there's a lot of competition out there when it comes to best athletic wear. The one who wins is who creates the most value for that customer. Now, if you've done a lot of great owned media or content marketing, and you house it on YouTube, which is owned by Google, and Google would rather you see video and you tag it, you're going to be organically up higher, and you're going to create value for that customer. This is why you want this certain thing for a hot day in Florida. It's wicking material, whatever. You're creating so much value. Of course, you're going to have a call to action later on in that piece, but that may be 3, 4, 5 steps down from where I first saw my initial touch point. So it's building out that entire infrastructure so you are being in front of that consumer based on their behavior, how they're going to go research you out, and you're going to be on the first page, you're going to be relevant, you're giving them information, you're not trying to spam them with offers, and you're not trying to jam something down their throat. Just guilt them into doing business with you. Give them so much value that you're going to do business with them. But that is the difference between back in the day, we'd say, here's $500,000, $1 million, go produce an infomercial commercial. We're not even having that discussion. I don't even want to be part of that discussion until I get all this infrastructure built first. And all that is content. All that is storytelling, it's value, it's all that. And then we'll put fuel on the fire with television or digital or however we want to do that. So it is flipped on its head. It's the length of action and being able to have all that information. And you're going to have phone numbers, and you're going to have mobile websites, you're going to have you're going to have all that kind of stuff. But if you don't appear early on in their search, you're irrelevant.
Yeah,
you don't exist.
And what I love about that is it ties into Chris's earlier comment about learn now, act on my time. In any of those touch points, whether it's YouTube or Facebook or email or the website, at the moment that I'm ready, I talked to my girlfriend, she just bought it, she looks amazing, I'm gonna hit it for me, right? And I also think too that this is being recorded. Note, a new KPI in the performance world, CTLA, call to length of action. Here we go, you heard it here first. So we talked a lot about these ideas, which is awesome, and we appreciate that, but we actually wanted to show some examples too. So we do have some show and tell, and Chris, I'm gonna start with you. The conventional wisdom had it that inbound phone calls get a higher conversion rate than inbound channels like websites and the like. Is that still the case, or does it depend on the vertical of the industry, the client you're working with? And I'm going to hand you the clicker. You are now each individually responsible for the clicker, and your relationship with the AV team is beautiful, and we're synchronous, so we're going to start with you.
Great.
And the floor is yours.
Okay, perfect. So it's very interesting because, yes, the landscape has shifted a lot. It was interesting. I was having a conversation actually this morning about, e-commerce and people going to Amazon. And one of the reasons why they go there is because, and I'm going to use his words, is they're able to return it so easily. So when you're talking about products like that, does somebody actually want to pick up the phone and call to ask questions? Absolutely not. But in certain industries, we've seen a lot of growth, and those industries are going to be legal services. That's a really big one. Mass tort. People want to pick up the phone, talk to somebody because something has happened to them, and they don't necessarily want to fill out forms and forms and forms before they talk to somebody. So that's a really big one. Healthcare. Healthcare is a really, really big category. So you have medical care offices. Again, people want to talk to somebody because it's about their body, their physical ailments. You have med tech devices. So that's a really big one that we're seeing growth in. And so we are seeing a lot of growth in those areas. How it's changed is people want you to meet them where they are at. So for example, with Flowcode, some people want to scan, fill out the form, have somebody contact them. Or maybe what we're also seeing is they scan and they go to a website, and let's say it's legal services, they actually want to call. They want to call because they want to talk to somebody now, they've had issues, and that is what we are actually seeing in the market with dynamic number insertion, just to kind of tie that into here. What you see is we'll pull all the cookie information in there, and then we'll be able to see, hey, it came from this ad, this digital ad, or it came through organic, or a direct, somebody actually typed in the website, and it came through that. So that's kind of the evolution that we've seen, really in these high-value services. Financial services is another one where we're seeing people pick up the phone and call because they actually want to talk to somebody because the value of what they're buying is a lot higher. So in the healthcare space specifically, an insurance company that we worked with, what they were testing at the time is, hey, we have a bunch of random 800 numbers versus highly memorable numbers. We're advertising on TV. Across the board, we saw a 10% lift in memorable numbers because they're just easier to remember versus the random numbers. So again, but this is an industry that people want to talk to somebody. It was annual enrollment period. It's people in their people 65 years old. They're talking about their insurance, so they want to speak with someone. The last example that I'll give around calls to action is personal medical, kind of I don't know what you would call it, but
Devices?
I'm not sure if you're familiar with Inside Tracker.
Yeah.
Okay, so Inside Tracker, they're a blood company, basically, and a data company. They take your blood, they are able to track all these different biometrics about you. It's very, very personal. I knew the CMO there, and it was crazy because this was back in 2021. He was telling me, Chris, you'd be shocked. We have these 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds. They're picking up the phone and calling because they want to talk to somebody because it's so personal and private to them. So back to the original question, are we seeing the, is it dependent on verticals? It absolutely is dependent on verticals because it depends how personal it is to you. It depends on price point. There's a lot of factors that go into it where people actually want to pick up the phone and talk to someone.
I'd also think too, I don't know if this is true, it's a theory I can't prove, but that we're in a customer service environment where now most of it's by chat, most of it's by AI chat, so it's not even a real person on the chat. Very hard to actually call somebody. Usually websites don't bury their 800 number. If they do, it's very tough to actually get through some kind of protocol. I would think, though, that being able to talk to a real live human being on the other end is almost like an antidote to some of this and is a relief.
Yes.
It's a differentiator, right? It's a differentiator. You're different. You're more real than other companies that don't have that.
Right. That's exactly right. The other thing is if you look at other stats, 5%, there's a 5% conversion rate on forms. People fill out a form. Actually talking to that person who filled out that form, there's a 5% conversion rate. It's, people say it's 100%, but you obviously have spam. Somebody actually calls you. Yeah. That's a very valuable
They've committed.
They've committed already.
They've committed,
yeah. So it's important, but I would also say it's meeting where that customer wants to be met.
Yep,
And
exactly.
that's the big thing. Do you meet them on chat, a form, phone call? That's the big differentiator.
And it could be, to Ken's point, that it's later on.
Right.
It's after not just 5 touches, it's after 25 touches. It's after dozens of impressions to get that sense of credibility and to know and to like and to trust that brand to actually pick up the phone and call. Because once they do, they know they're in the final stages of engagement. And I know you don't like the word engagement, the final stages of a relationship.
They're in the conversion stage is where they're at.
The conversion
that point.
stage.
Right. Right. And what we've also seen is just from our own lead gen, we're probably, I think it was 70% of our PPC revenue came from people actually picking the phone up and calling
I love it.
on the ad.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So even just from a personal standpoint, that's what
That's cool. That's excellent.
Yeah.
So Greg, it's your turn.
All right.
We've got some CTAs, we've got some landing page. I know that you have a must-have, one that might be overrated, but since the audience is here and they have a chance to listen to you directly one-on-one, tell them what they should do, please.
Hold on, I got to figure out the buttons here. Oh, there we go. So there are 2 rules. So Ken, we talked about the conversion step here. With a website, ask for the sale. That's the key. And it's fascinating how many people will create a commercial, they'll spend money on the media, they'll set up the phone number, they'll have Flowcode pointing towards the website, and they almost feel like they would be offending the person to ask for the sale. And it's not optional. You have to do it, right? It has to be there, and the second rule is that it has to be clear, not cute. Okay, and it's a good marketing term. So clear, not cute. What does that mean? Buy now. This is not, change my life forever. Oh, yes, I want to get started. No, buy now, buy today, order now, something like that. It works. It works every time. It works outside of websites. I was actually thinking of this today. I was at Whole Foods, and when I shop, I have my AirPods in, and I'm at Whole Foods, and I'm looking at the dairy section, And this little old guy comes up to me. I mean, he had to be like 80 years old. And he starts talking to me, but I couldn't hear him because I have the AirPods in. It was clear I had the AirPods in. And he kept talking. And I look over, and I take out my AirPods, and I'm like, oh, I'm sorry, what? He goes, oh, you have those things in. I forget people have those in. But anyway, have you tried this yogurt? And he takes it off the shelf, and he's a sales guy for the yogurt. He clearly understood that I had AirPods in. He did not care, and I bought the freaking yogurt.
Yes.
Right? Why?
Yes.
Because he
told
asked.
you.
If he didn't ask, I wouldn't have bought it. Am I offended I bought it? No, it was good yogurt. It was fine, right? So you have to ask for the sale. You have to ask for it in multiple places. And this is when it comes to tried and true, direct to consumer, buy the product, Plexiderm is in a league of its own. They are so good at this, and they've been so good at it for a decade on our platform. There was a point where they ran a 7-way A/B test with 13.5 or 12.5% traffic to each version. Everything they do is tested out at all times. And this is literally 10 years later what they're with. And I think there's 2 here. So if you click Buy Now up at the top, and you can just go to plexiderm.com, this is screenshots from Friday. If you click on the Buy Now, it's very clear top, right, that this is for a specific offer, and you can see it's $14.95 plus free shipping. Buy Now. When you click Buy Now, there's another Buy Now over there. And if you click Buy Now, it goes down further down the screen, and they have 3 offers. Okay, there's the trial offer that's presented on television. No, trial offer's not. Oh, this one is presented on television. It says TV special. Then there's $59.95 for a 30-day supply, and then there's buy 2, get 1 free, right? So they are perfect in terms of offers. They're explaining the value, blah, blah, blah. That's not the point of this conversation. It's about the call to action. What does each of those call to actions say? Does it say, yes, I want 3 months? Does it say, yes, I want the ease of auto ship? No. Buy now, buy now, buy now. Every single time. Clear call to action. Ask for the sale. Be clear, not cute. Absolutely critical. Make sense? All right, next is, which one's this? Is this Helio? I can't read it. Airbroom. Yep, so same deal, and I think the term they use is order now, and I don't remember, I'm going to go too far. There we go. Okay, so on this one, oh, this is the 4th one, okay, so this is Contour. So with Helio Air Broom, it is a clear order now. It's blue, not red. Do you know what color works best? Any, it doesn't matter. It's the text and the fact that you're asking for the sale.
I am so glad you said that.
Yep.
Because what color's best? All.
All of them. Doesn't matter, folks. So there's a difference between the rookies and the pros when they're building out a website. We can spot them literally like this. We've done 5,000 of these. Rookies care about the fonts and the button colors, and the pros do not care at all because they know that they are years away from being so dialed in that the only thing left to test is the font. And the way I prove this to everybody is I say, what font is Amazon? Nobody knows. Nobody cares, right? It doesn't matter. It solves their problem, and they can buy the product. Okay. So order now, that's a classic one. On this one, it goes right to a checkout because it is a single offer. They're not offering anything else. So call to action is order now. And the last one I wanted to show is that this is one where there are a couple different offers, a little different layouts, a little different than Plexiderm. A double offer TV offer, and what does it say? Select this offer. That's it. Nice and clear. It's not, yes, I want one for my partner and me. Yes, I want one for my whole family. Nope. The order button is a clear call to action. It's not explain why you want it. It's not explain the features and the benefits. It is a call to action.
So what I love about this is that this offer is not available in stores.
Yeah.
So this is actually the only place on planet Earth that you can actually do this right now. And then the command, order yours below.
Yeah, exactly.
3 words.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
So you're directing them down, and they've got the choices. So if you don't mind sharing, Greg, how many dollars of commerce have you seen go through Buyist?
1.5 billion.
With a B.
B.
A brick. Can you share how many customers you've done? On the platform?
We've done 5,000 DRTV campaigns.
So out of 5,000 DRTVs, 1.2 bricks.
Yep.
This is what you learned.
This is it. Yeah, it's funny. And here's the thing, and I'm a big believer of this. It was like this in 2011. This hasn't changed. This is marketing. It doesn't matter that it's e-commerce. These are marketing fundamentals. Be clear, not cute. It's a marketing thing. My favorite book that we've used to literally figure out, the things that work on e-commerce is called Scientific Advertising by Claude Hopkins, written in 1923. right? It was for direct mail. If you just swap out direct mail for landing page or email, it is the exact same stuff. It's about communicating with people, right? Another great book, actually, was one of the times that I felt genuinely validated by what direct response does, right? Because a lot of people, they want the brand thing, right? And actually, here's another advice too. The people who come in with, oh, we want this site because this site, we want a site just like these guys because they're running TV and their site is all beautiful and they're not cheesy and it's not yell and sell. Well, the reality is that brand is owned by some VC. They're pumping in so much money in ads, they don't need the ads to perform, right? You don't have that funding. You need the sales from the revenue, which means you need to ask for the sale every single time. I forget what my other point was.
Yeah, if I could just say one thing, just lean in on the knowledge that he's talking about because we've done many things together with.
Actually, I'm going to pause you there because I was thinking of something earlier. We created a PDF a few weeks ago. And we took the logos of the most memorable names and literally Hoover, Dirt Devil, Omaha Steak. Every single memorable name was through script to screen.
Yeah, thank you. But lean in on if you're even thinking about doing direct response and using the website, lean in on the knowledge and the data and the expertise.
Yeah.
Don't try to figure it out. They're experts at it. You can't hire enough people to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah.
$1.2 billion can't be wrong. That's
we could be wrong all the time, but it's pretty educated.
That's true.
That's the key. Right?
What about placement? Or is that the same thing as colors and fonts? Like,
placement matters because eyes do tend to go certain ways. Actually, it was really funny. On Reddit a couple of weeks ago, there was an image that said, you will read this text first, this text second, this text third, and at the top was this text fourth. And I was like, oh my God, like that's exactly how you read it. There's a big left to right when people do websites. So that matters. It's not... It's not going to take you from a 3% conversion rate to a 10% conversion rate. The thing that matters, and it's beyond the scope of this conversation, it's the offer, right? Yeah. The professionals and the amateurs are worried about the font and the button color. The pros will spend months or if not years testing the offer. Is it a double offer? Is it buy three, get one free? Is it 25% off or is it free shipping? Is it free pillowcase along with this? That's the kind of stuff that moves the needle.
Yeah. That other stuff makes it frictionless.
Yep.
But
yep. Yeah.
The offer that drives the
action.
action.
Down to the nuts and bolts.
Yeah. So Mike, someone scans a code, and you have learned to be kind of these higher converting next steps.
Yeah.
So you actually are now moving into a new place with Flowcode, Flowcode 2.0. Full disclosure, Modern and Flowcode do work together. This is actually a prototype we're doing for one of our customers. Why don't you talk about Flowcode 2.0 and how it's actually taking that impulse to purchase into reality through your technology?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think even before we start talking about the conversion experience and the data, I think it's also just helpful to take a step back, right? And the conversion page and everything can only be so powerful, but if people aren't actually getting there instantaneously when they want it, then it's a complete miss, right? Like you mentioned, you could run an amazing ad for athletic wear, and you don't have a way to actually capture that consumer when he or she is ready to shop. What's to stop them from a couple hours later going back, not remembering your brand name, but searching best athletic wear, your competitors bet higher than you, or they have a higher SEO score, and then great, you just ran all that media for lead or conversion for one of your competitors. So I think first it starts with the front door of the experience or the custom branded code itself, and I think one thing we really pride ourselves on here at Flowcode is really creating codes and experiences to look and feel like the brands that we partner with, right? Like I'm sure everyone in the crowd is aware of QR technology. It's been around for quite some time, and it's typically a black and white square, right? And what we have found is there's actually a lot of fraud in the market. There's a lot of free QR providers, non-US based free generators, where people are putting these on marketing assets, and these codes are being hacked, right? And they're being redirected to a competitor's site. There's tons of articles out there too, or just different websites you would not want your brand to be affiliated with.
That's wild.
So that's actually a huge challenge in the market, and really why we started Flowcode. But We also find that consumers are 2.5x more likely to convert on a code that looks and feels like a brand that they love and they trust compared to standard black and white QR. Also, to your awesome point around calls to action, right? Get straight to the point, don't be cute. What we find is when you mesh a strong call to action around the border of the code, which we could do with our design as well, we find things such as scanning to win or scanning for some type of a discount perform significantly better compared to a scan to learn more or even a scan to buy now, right? Because consumers are pretty selfish. So if they're going to take that extra action and burn those extra calories, there better be an incentive as to why they should do that. And if you could also make that time-based, I think that's even more powerful, right? Sale ends in the next 12 hours. And that goes at the front door of the experience, but also to the landing page experience. And then we essentially optimize conversion pages based off of the goals of the campaign, right? So that could be CRM or on the commerce side, we haven't driven nearly as much results as Buyist over here. Hopefully one day on the commerce side, right? But I think there's a ton of opportunity for that. And then where it all comes down to is the data and the analytics, right? So perhaps someone scans the code on a television ad, on a print ad, on a piece of direct mail, and maybe they drop off, right? And that could be for a number of reasons, right? Short attention span, maybe the offer and incentive wasn't so compelling to them. But what you could essentially see in our platform is an offline ID graph to help you understand, hey, Mike scanned this TV code and he went to the checkout page and then actually dropped off. But more importantly, what did he do after that, right? Did he scan a code for one of your competitors on another TV ad? You'd essentially be able to aggregate all of this ID data to retarget to your consumers, all down to the household level as well.
And one of the new breakthroughs is actually getting also to the purchase point, right? Where you can get through to the checkout, because one of the things that we've all learned and we discussed again is when the customer is ready to buy, you got to make it easy for them to buy somehow, because you don't know when they're actually going to do it. And I think, Ken, what I'd love to do is have you kind of wrap it up and give us kind of some of those, not only if-then scenarios, but the examples of some of the campaigns that we've talked about and how it's in action. Now, our friends in the AV team are primed and ready because we're going to do some stuff in terms of going to some place that's beyond the deck. Is that correct?
Yeah,
Right.
I don't even have it figured out, so we'll see how this goes.
Okay.
But I have a question. I think I heard you mention, is there a size that you want on screen for that Flowcode in relation to where the couch is to the television?
Yeah.
I think that's an important.
I'm really happy you brought that up.
Yeah.
You saved me. I kind of missed one of the most important parts. Yes, that does matter. So size of code, time on screen, call to action, all factor into performance. Something we actually built into our technology too is essentially being able to understand the size of your television and where the couch is in relation to the
People
television.
don't think about that.
Yeah, right.
They don't want to get up
Like,
and do something.
Exactly.
They try to scan a code and it doesn't pick
Exactly.
it up.
Right,
It's got to
right.
be friction free.
It's got to be friction free, yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously, the larger, the better. And but if you want more granularity on, the exact size of the code or percentage of the screen it should take up, I mean, we've thought of that, and that we've been pretty aggressive with testing everything
Yeah, I think
with codes on television.
I think
over
it's
the past 5
important
years.
because people
Yes.
see Flowcode and it sounds like a nice thing, but there's a lot of intel
thought out.
behind it.
Yeah.
And I think you had
Yeah.
mentioned too
Yeah.
some of the direct mail programs where the larger the code, if it's a minimum 3-inch diameter, which on a postcard is pretty large, it boosts response rate.
That's right.
By 3 to 5x.
Yeah.
It's just even
'Cause
just the
it's
size of it.
this far away from you.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What do I push? Oh, so one of our clients is a home security company called Blink, which is owned by Amazon. And I show this because this is like a traditional CTA that we did in our short form commercials and our long form commercials. And we probably tested at least 50 different at least 4 television screens and digital screens as well, and television and phone screens. But this is kind of your typical what that call to action looks like. Then you go down and then this is a different one where we put it down into payments. And we tested just that one before that I just showed this one. Oh, I can't go back. But anyways, so we tested it different. So my point to this is that we're testing visual landing pages over and over and over again online, and we transfer it offline into linear and vice versa. So we'll go through at least 50 different versions of just what that visual will be for the right platform. This will be totally different for mobile, and it'll be totally different for linear. Does it scroll? Yeah. So now we're getting into a lot of the, when we're above the fold and we're going down and we're making a longer sales page and we're educating consumers more and more and more. So we find that the longer that sales page has become, at least for that brand, the better converting it was. But it all started, what was that first image, what got them there to this landing page, then to scroll down, and we tested how many pages do they scroll? Yep.
Can you scroll all the way up? Big call to actions, buy on Amazon, and as soon as you scroll down a little bit, I love that change to buy now.
Yep.
Right? So that initial thing is they know they can buy it on Amazon. It's the easy way to go.
Right.
They don't need that anymore. Now it's just the 2 words when you're engaged with the site.
Right, and that's, to Chris's point, is like just what are we here to do? We're here to sell cameras, right? But from an Amazon customer, they know that they're going to go buy with Prime. They already know they're going to do that, so don't even have them try to figure out anything. Just like make it super, super easy. So we do a longer landing page, and this goes down to that call to length of action. If they didn't make a decision based on what they saw on TV or on their mobile device, they needed more information. So we provide that for them. So you can just keep scrolling all the way down, and this just goes and goes, and we give all kinds of options of what to do, how it works. We use video into everything. We explain it all. So this is like your one-stop manual, everything you need to know. And
So they don't go back to Google.
so they don't go back to Google. We've got them. Exactly. And you'll notice in the top right, we've never left the reason why we're here.
Never left the buy now.
We're going to educate you, but we're going to have it there. Although, and then we'll bring it up periodically after reviews, like this is where you can buy it. So we'll always educate, buy. We always call it jab, 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 left hook. Jab, jab,
I
left
also
hook.
love it too, like the buy now button got bigger as you started to scroll down. I love it.
It'd be pretty funny if it just kept getting bigger.
As you scroll, it just extends.
So then I'll go to a different one. So let's go to the next example, please. Thank you. Okay. So this is another one of our clients. So if any guy watches any sports television, they know Nugenics. So we do about $100 million a year in advertising just for this one supplement brand. So depending on how we get them to go, so top of the funnel is television. It's a digital only or digital first business, but top of the funnel is all television. And television drives so much of what they do, but also goes back to my point of once I've seen it, where do I get to that landing page, and then what do I do, and how far along does it take me to get them to do what I want them to do? So that will be the first landing page I go to. And okay. So you're in control of this now, right? Okay, great, thank you. So we're going to go through a lot of things in this Nugenics site, but we're going to go through a little bit different of what are the kind of offers they have. Do you want regular Nugenics? Do you want Nugenics Total T? We're going to get you through all that kind of stuff, and then we're going to put all of our owned media content. So our owned media content is our blogs and a video on our blogs. This is extremely, you shouldn't even consider direct-to-consumer if you don't have an owned media strategy in your business. And if you don't have that built out first, I wouldn't spend a penny on any advertising until you do that. To my point earlier about
Content.
And where you're going to be, and so you can outsmart your competition versus outspend your competition. So it just goes, there's more credibility. So it goes to what they reacted to, what they needed to learn. We gave them own media content, and we gave some credibility to where else you can find this, because we're okay going to CVS, GNC, but because we can have attribution to wherever it goes. So then there's a longer landing page. I think is there another page that a site that
What I also think is interesting too, if you can hold up real quick, can you just do a scroll up, just slowly, if you don't mind? Or if we're off this page? Well, what I thought was interesting about this one
I don't have control of that.
Your shopping cart 0 at the top instead of a buy now. I think that was a really interesting choice to let everybody know they're at a 0. It's time to fill.
Mm-hmm. I wish I could say I was smart enough to figure that out, but great. There's a longer landing page. Okay, so what that other landing page is what we do on Nugenix is we do text to order, or there's people go to nugenix.com. We'll drive a lot of traffic from a YouTube VSL. And once we go onto that VSL takes that YouTube ad takes us to a VSL, which is a 13 to 17 minute infomercial, if you will, there, and then it takes them to a much longer landing page. And we've tested so many different lengths of the landing pages, depending on what, if it's 30 to 40-year-old men or 40 to 50-year-old men and all kinds. So we did like 70 different types of landing pages, long form sales pages on the back end. But we had to figure out what exactly is the message we're selling to specific people, to specific pain points that they have, and where they came from. Did they come from digital? Did they come from YouTube? Did they come from television? Each one of those messages has their own funnels, and none of them cross-pollinate. Right. They're all totally different. So it really comes down to providing the consumer the information that they want, when they want it, and in how they want to consume it, and just don't assume that your call to action anymore is, I see something, I'm just going to order it. You better have everything built out ad nauseum, tested, figured out, offers, links, everything. And then you can start playing ball, and then you can start putting fuel on the fire.
Put more spend into what you know
works.
Put
more spend into what works.
Right. Awesome. Give them a hand. Come on. Come on. Fantastic.
We got time for one question, if anyone wants it. Got you back there.
Question, I didn't catch your name and I lost my little thing. I'm sorry about that.
Ken,
tell us about how I think you talked in the beginning about the customer journey and stitching together the conversion story, if you will. Are you using another company to do that? How are you managing to do that between linear and CTV? Thanks.
That's what our agency does. So we encompass it all. But we first figure out what is the marketing strategy? What does the company want to accomplish first, right? And then we'll put together a content strategy. We'll put together our front end creative strategy. We'll put in our digital strategy. So we don't go out. We create it all, and I think that's the question you're asking. We'll use some partners for sometimes. We'll use Shopify sometimes, and outside partners like that. But in terms of the entire strategy, the media buying, and the month-to-month attribution, or in this case, day-to-day attribution, we do all that internally.
Another round of applause for the group here.
Fantastic.